A daemon is a background application in computer terminology. In ancient Greece, they were intermediary spirits that personified various natural and abstract phenomena, from spirits of the home and hearth to forces of the world, and for a time they were used as a word for gods. For example, Zeus was even called a daemon. But the term evolved in its use throughout ancient Greece. Death, justice, strife, old age, sleep, rage, nightmares, health, love, a guiding voice. The deities are names that may be familiar, or the words derived from them. Eros, the god of love, Hygeia, the goddess of health, Thanatos, the god of death, Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory, Nike, the goddess of victory, Phobos, the god of fear, and so on. They were all daimons. Daimons are even thought to be a strong influence on how later religions would depict entities such as angels and demons in Christianity. But Greek daimons should not be confused with demons, as they are very different. Daimons are neutral, lesser spirits. They simply exist in the background and make appearances to the foreground on occasion. Daimon in etymology means to divide or provide, as in fortunes and destinies. They are the processes that happen, culminate, influence. Computer technology borrows this meaning for similar background applications. They differ from standard applications in that they do not require GPU, as they are not displayed, and do not require interaction to run. Bluetooth connection, file synchronization, domain name system, HTTP, SSD, and many more. They can be managed and configured, but work in computers quite similar to ancient Greek folklore and religion, background spirits that could be interacted with and that ultimately ran things behind the scenes. With that understanding, daimon can be used to describe and imagine our own mind's background neural networks. It can be as simple as colloquialisms such as math brain or art brain, work brain, or into more specific professions, photographer's eye, an engineer mind, a literary brain, a history buff, a connoisseur, or having a special interest, being savvy. People have default mode networks and skills they have acquired, perspectives gained, and a lens curated to view the world in. However, these terms are rudimentary, lacking in directive and ingenuity, almost as if it's intentionally denying any self-awareness of an acquired skill or talent, as well as a personification of one's own cognitive abilities. The forced mysticism of the mind has left humans in these liminal mazes in which navigation of one's own psyche is impossible and daunting. It is odd that the mind, observing itself, has taken the stance of not trusting the thoughts which come from within the mind as valid expression of neural recognition. Humans who claim their brain is above all nature and the most complex object in the universe, an accomplishment made easier by not having explored far beyond the single planet they occupy or even their own 2 feet, and somehow cannot acknowledge that same brain's capacity to build itself, to customize and form abilities, much like people who use a heart monitor to see if their heart rate is heightened. But the heart beats in the chest already, and this does not need outside verification. The brain can only be studied from the outside as the consensus, only with equipment, specialists, scans, dissection, and anything except for the imagination, which is the brain's primary use. Avoid using the mind when studying the mind is the unspoken rule of cognitive studies, and so mental spaces are bereft. Language and conversation about the brain is like talking about a sacred relic or a holy spring. It's this space that cannot be touched or used, only admired from a distance, its purpose made numb from the lack of using the gift of its existence. Instead, every instance is pathologized, normal is hallucinated, and drugs are the answer to fix its flawed workings. But it is not flawed, is it? It grows how it is used. This must be remembered. There are many who would refer to ancient Greek daimons as primitive superstition, but it seems the most superstitious are humans living today who have conjured the brain into a separate entity from themselves that is both the controller of their being and the highest and often the only form of consciousness. But what good is a relic or holy spring if it isn't used? Rather than watching from the sidelines and hoping to neuroscience and psychology that the brain does what you want, as if it were some capricious organ that owns you and decides your life, the popular lore is that people are only the background observers of their brain, Instead, why not use the brain? Why not download daemons and datamine? The possibilities are endless, but the specific architecture, blueprints of neural maps, background applications can be crafted and are naturally grown through experience. The way you think, decisions you make, the circuit of ideas, trains of thought, the way information processes and integrates into knowledge and experience take place in the neurons and neural connections. Real structures in the brain that grow and connect and form networks, webs of information relay and feedback loop. It is easy to see why computer terms are often applied to cognitive processes, though getting too far into it suggests a very robotic and therefore static understanding. There are ways in which GPU, RAM, and binary language work in context of the mind to better relate. The caveat being that the mind is not still. It's plastic, it grows, prunes back unused connections, builds itself around where and how it is used. Ultimately, it is the metaphor, the imagination, the story formed around the use of that adds the final touch of animation to the psyche. It is the electric spark of life into the clay that is molded. You can think of your brain in terms of a computer. It can also be a facility, a space station, a city, a colony of insects, various characters, departments, personifications. It can be a mining operation full of dwarves extracting treasure and goblins searching for loot. They can be purely abstract, like abilities, skills, or applications. What daemons refer to are neural structures in the nervous system, root networks that are naturally and can be intentionally formed as self-aware modules of thought processing. There are necessary daemons, programs that run sleep activation, heart rate, digestion, muscle movement, appetites, emotions, some that are grown over time, language, social awareness, contracts and expectations, cultural, moral, and legal systems, history, beliefs. Some are adjunct, personalized through skill, development, or special interests, even hobbies or entertainment. They are honed and crafted with time and energy. Like a temporospatial garden amidst a lagoon of dark primordial water and sparkling bejeweled constellations above, a psychomystic inner sanctum of the mind, where the bioluminescent hydroponic plants are grown to bear whatever fruit you want. The self-recognition of self, when the application of imaginatory discrete networks are mixed, applied, provide an associational dimension added to the mental process in use. That is the discriminate architecture being curated. The imagination itself is a daemon. It takes neural connections within the feedback loop of the brain to establish imagination. This spark animates not only the outside world, but the inside world. It is no different than the naming of animals. In fact, by naming, not just broad classification, but when you name something personally, give it a special word to form a bond with, that thing takes on a new life in your world, whether it's a pet, an object, a doll, a plant. The naming of things, such as seen from children, to animate everything they interact with, breathes life into the reality they experience. Similar to the Greek daemons, they were named aspects of reality, nature, divinity, occurrences, that gave understanding to these situations of life, helped them to interact, deal with, and utilize. That same process, creating imaginary friends, defining that which you imagine to be real, the folklore of the world over, that is what can be imbued into the mind. They are the builders of archetypes within you that express outwardly into yourself. They are the path of upgrades, the constellations of abilities within the wheelhouse of your skills, the knowledge base you draw from, the garden of light wisdom you grow, the architecture of the palace, the mandala kaleidoscope of circuitry you course electrical thought through, the phosphine angel forms that power your being. But daemons are background applications. It is well and good to manually activate certain discrete regions of the mind you have built or have acquired through coincidence, and this helps initially to craft them, to temper the mind through the balefire of imagination. However, they are most effective when not actively used. Data mining with daemons is to let the daemon run the information with the algorithm that has been created. Information input will be processed from the ore that is mined and sent into the refinery of the forge into an ingot of understanding. The random access memory takes a lot of energy. The program exists to use a minimal amount of resources when you are not actively accessing it. To attend to the thought is to put extra effort into a complex water wheel of moving gears and flowing streams with the goal of grain to be crushed. You can trust not to micromanage the daemon because it is capable of its own maintenance so long as you provide the balance in your life to feed the input with quality material. It is the improper use and understanding of the brain that leads to so many issues of health and creativity and cognitive decline. People become trapped by the enormity of their own mind. They learn things without proper integration. The heartbeat becomes manual, the digestion becomes manual, the blood flow and nutrient distribution becomes manual. Your ability to handle all those spinning gears is not effective compared to the daemons already in place. It throws off the flow of activity. Like the foreman who is good at organizing and finding roles for the builders, but who himself is not competent as a builder, yet is always trying to step in. It disturbs the buzz of activity, throws people off, hinders progress, and the workers learn to loathe those visits from the foreman who cannot learn to trust himself in his decisions of who to hire, fostering an efficient system. Your body will run itself. The garden does not grow when you stare at it. The thoughts do not process when you try to force it. Let go. The nervous system has the information. It will take care of it and surface it when it's ready. Let the refinery and forge process the ore you bring it. Let the daemons data mine the deep well of experience and knowledge you encounter in the world. There are times when overclocking the mind is necessary, when problems need immediate solving. But even these are avoidable if one always has free space, room to breathe and wiggle, to react and adjust. The plasticity is much like a computer hard drive. People hold on to mental junk, max out their short-term memory, and have to constantly delete, copy, upload, download their thoughts, which itself takes more processing power. Send the information to the daemons. Free up the space below 80% max load, and don't leave it under 20%. That is the rule of thumb for computer memory, a good lesson for life. Do not overburden information and processing, but don't neglect learning and experience. There is such a huge amount of room to run efficiently, yet so much of life is in one extreme or another. Monitoring heart rate, executive function, breathing, autonomic nervous control, many of the background processes are stuck in conscious vigilance, making day-to-day life far more difficult than it needs to be. Imagine the daemons. What is your daemon for? Writing, art, engineering, history, crafts, math, problem solving, work, projects, hobbies, exercise. Whatever your directory is composed of, let that symphony play with all its ragtag members, each with their specialties. Orchestrate, but do not feel the necessitation of playing every instrument yourself. Let them get practice. Let them interact with one another. You can share information, techniques, and thought processing between and across various regions of the brain. Give it dimensions. You are crafting data. First, the spot is divined and prospected. Then the mine is opened. A miner is sent to retrieve the ore of code. That ore is sent to the refinery. The ingot is sent to the forge. The forge tempers it into a jewel. The jewel is given to a craftsman who can form a talisman. The talisman is sent to the wizard for enchanting. The enchantment is placed into the device to power the fission reactor that tears a hole in the veil. And from it your hand can reach into and grasp from the void through the exploit that glitches the reality by an angel the daemon has summoned, extend to you the relic, the item, the reward, the power, the legendary loot. And daemons can be shared. There can be entire directories in which people share the blueprint instructions for how to process in certain ways for certain skills, how to craft the background components for subconscious utility, the temporospatial architecture of an alchemist's laboratory that is the mind. It is there for you to use, not to be used by and controlled. Not to be at the whims of hallucinated meanings, but to use that same potential to dream and imagine. Fire up the forge, open the minds, begin the quests, start the applications, turn on the engines with gears and circuits and wheels within wheels. It is time to take the default mode network and customize it. You were never meant to leave it all on factory settings. When the daemon is ready, you will feel the thought presented to you clearly. It will click, the aha, eureka, Archimedes moment. The detective connecting the red lines together, leading to the culprit. The solving of the puzzle, when the pieces you have set in motion fall into place. Give yourself time, give your daemons the benefit of the doubt. Leave yourself the space to be ready when it finally comes to fruition, finished processing, which is to literally grow neurons of thought. That flood of information may be overwhelming, so proper preparations should be taken. Measures to handle the product to be moved. When you are working on something creative, problem solving, a project to figure out, an issue to resolve, you should do everything but that thing. You need to back off, distance yourself, move around, do any activity as far unrelated as possible once you have the task accepted. It is like being stared at when you're trying to work. It is a cause of discomfort. You can feel the eyes on you, which keeps you in a state of reflexive fight or flight, unnerving you, to make you nervous. Or in areas where a mental space is crowded by loud thoughts and the bandwidth of the location is used up and exhausted. It helps to move around. Find a quiet place where new thoughts can be found. That is the same sensation of watching a plant grow. When you are being watched, it is a defense mechanism to remain aware of the vision on you, as this is evolutionary to hunting for all of nature. That same principle, because your neurons are roots, just like plants, you cannot stare at the thoughts indefinitely and expect them to grow. Although in education this is instilled from elementary school, as information is set in a curriculum and the pace must be matched. The lack of understanding the growth and cultivation of the mind leads to a garden with poor roots, bad spacing, not well thought out, full of weeds and messy and lacking aesthetic appeal and utility. No cohesion, no companion planting or crop rotation, no soil aeration, no mycorrhizal network to bond, share, and connect one region to the other. The mind becomes a labyrinth of root balls that are twisted on themselves and suffocate the mental space. Unwind. Break the walls that prevent this self-imagination download and distribution of daemons. Let the wilderness of the inner world begin, work that is inherent to every child, but is control-deleted by adulthood, and so is never let to grow into its potential. The daemons will grow stronger, more efficient, more complex, more communicative, more clear in their presentation and processing, and your own ability to share daemons and learn new ones from others will increase. Your capacity for new ways of thinking, seeing, building new senses, new imaginatory approaches, it is all infinitely scalable. Mining the mind, fracking fractals, the daemons expand in effect, become their own beings, extend out on their own. Pick up what you miss, provide alternate perspectives, challenge your own views. You evolve yourself by animating. They mix with the microbiome, the holobiont, which is you, and all that you encompass as an ecological unit. Your organs are daemons, your microbes are daemons. Would it not be better to talk to them, to work as one? This is the very basis for evolution, Lamarckian rather than Darwinian. Life is yours to customize. Your form is art that you paint, gardens that you build, temples you erect, monoliths you arrange. The altars and tabernacles house your daemons, made into characteristics of biological flux, and all remains in flux. The river is a daemon, its soul providing life to its terrain. The mountain is a giant. The forest is a person, just as each tree is a person. Your body is a person, just as each organ is a person, just as each microbe is a person, and together, you, the microbes, the insects, the air, the water, the wind, the grass, and soul, and bones, and blood, the mind and its neurons, the electricity and the sun, the star and the moon, all together they form the dream of life, and its imagination is run as daimonic angels, crafting an experience full of light, wisdom, data, and mining.